Hey there, and welcome to this video where we're going to use a package called Stargazer to make nice looking tables for both summary statistics and linear regression output in RStudio. Where I'm starting this video is at the end of example 7.1 in our text, where we've used RStudio to estimate a linear regression model. We've imported our data, we've turned off scientific notation, we've created city dummy variables from the variable location, we've made a linear regression model, and we've made predictions. So now what I'd like, rather than having linear regression output that looks fairly messy like this, I'd like it to be a bit tidier. I wish it was going to be super fast. There's some manipulation we've got to do, so bear with me for maybe 3 minutes while we get ourselves ready to use the Stargazer package. All right, so what is a package? Packages are essentially little add-ons to RStudio that do different things that aren't possible with the basic version of R. In your packages tab over here in the bottom right-hand quadrant, you can see all of the packages that are in your library. If you type in Stargazer, it's likely that you're not going to have anything. It'll probably end up blank here. And so the first thing we've got to do is get Stargazer for you. You've got to get it. So we're going to just get Stargazer. It's a two-step process. The first thing you need to do is install the package. If you don't have it here, the code you're going to use in RStudio to get it is install packages, and then in quotations you're going to type Stargazer. And I'm not going to run this because I already have it, so you're going to just run that. Your computer will do some things. And then in packages, you'll have Stargazer. Sweet. Then after that, you need to add it to your library using the code library Stargazer. Why a two-step process? Well, you need to install the package first, but you've got to tell RStudio in each new session what packages outside of the general base package you want to use. And you can do that either by running the code library Stargazer or by finding the package and clicking it. So now that I've got Stargazer and I've added it to my library, we're ready to start, well, we are almost ready to start working with it. Why are we maybe not ready to start working with it? Well, if we look at my data, our first column is the name of the school, and that's it complicates things. We're going to change it so that rather than there being a column that's the name of the school, we want these row names to be the name of the school. This is a relatively useful thing to do, but we're going to just call it convert the first column of data into row names. It's a funny little thing that we've got to do, but what we've got to do is make a new data frame. Our data frame now, my data has 6 variables, the first being the name of the school. We're going to make a new data frame that we're going to call new data that is just the same as my data, except for, data frame. It's the same as my data, but that the row names are currently contained in the first column. Once we run it and take a look at it, we can see that instead of there being column 1, it's the names of the schools. That was easy. So now we just need to get rid of the original data frame called my data using rm, remove my data. There it's gone. And then we just need to rename new data, my data. And now we've got 2 data frames. They're identical, 116 observations of 5 variables, but we're no longer going to need that new data, so let's remove it. kind of around the mulberry bush, isn't it? But now my data looks like that. So what is this Stargazer thing, Jamie, you say that we are going to do? We're going to start by making a table of descriptive statistics. So what Stargazer will do by default is give you the average values with standard deviation and count of all the numeric variables or all the variables in your data set, and it will recognize the type of variable, so it's pretty darn easy to work with. And the commands are fairly easy to work with also. The command is Stargazer, then you tell it the data set that you're using, my data, and then you tell it the type of table you want. Your choices are text or HTML. We're going to use text. And if that is all we want to do, we can run it. And there's our nice little table. And to follow up on that, if we want to see what a table of regression output looks like, all we need is we already have to have our model available. If you don't have that, you'll need to create that linear regression model and start in the same place that I've started. But the same idea here is that you've got the Stargazer command, and instead of wanting a summary of all of the data, we want a summary of the model. We also want it to be in text. And if we hit run there, now we've got our dependent variable of earnings, and you can compare this to the output made by Excel or the output made with RStudio a little while ago. And you'll see that the coefficient for cost is 0.435, the coefficient for graduation rate is 178, not to reinterpret the model again, and then our F statistics, like our significance of F, are down here below. Also, the p-values aren't reported on the statistics of F, but it does let you know that it's significant at the 0.01 level. And we've got asterisks to indicate if an individual variable is significant, and if so, how much, using this code. So that's the basics. We can do a little bit more with Stargazer too. And I want to show you a couple of options. One is that we can ask it to save these tables to our computer so that we can copy and paste them either into Word or into Excel. But before we do that, I'm going to go up here under Get Stargazer, and I'm going to give myself another little line. And I'm going to say set working directory. What is the working directory? The working directory is the place on your computer that RStudio will look for data, and it will save files that you're creating or using. And in this case, we're going to create a file. We're going to create multiple files, actually. So to set the working directory, you go to Session, to Set Working Directory, and then go to Choose Directory and navigate onto your computer around to figure out where you want to go. I made a folder on my desktop called R Working Directory where I save stuff. And now it runs a piece of code called Set Working Directory. And I'm going to save this so that if I need to set the working directory again, or if I want to move my working directory around, anyway, there's my code. So now, when I ask RStudio to save these tables, it will save them to my working directory. All right, so let's refine our table of descriptive statistics. I'm going to refine it in two ways. First, I'm going to add labels for my variables, earnings, cost, grad, debt, and city, because we know what they mean, but who says that our audience does? You can either name them in your Excel sheet, in which case you won't need to redo it now, but sometimes it's easier just to do it now. And I'm going to tell it where I want the output to go. So this is how this is going to look. We're going to start with the same piece of code. Stargazer with my data, type, text. Great. Whew, that was easy. And then I'm going to give the table a title. The title is going to be, title is going to be summary statistics. And then I'm going to tell it what I want these labels to be. And that is by using the code covariate labels. And then I'm going to use C, which means that I'm going to make a list of things, and I'm going to list what I want them to be in this order. So earnings, I want to call it annual earnings after graduation. The second one is cost, so that's going to be, in quotation marks, annual cost of attendance, close quotation marks. Third, I need grad, which is the 4-year graduation rate as a percent. And then I have the proportion of graduates with student debt. That's what debt means. And then the last one, I've got location, which is a dummy variable equal to 1 if the college was in a city. So I'm just going to call that location 1 equals city. Well, that was a lot to type. And it's made this really, really long row. And so I'm going to highlight this. Don't run it because it's not done. But then I'm going to hit Command or Control, Command on a Mac, Control on a PC. So Command Shift A, and it will format the code. And if you use Command Shift A, you will be able to compare your code side by side with somebody else's because the formatting will be exactly the same. So I'm not done yet, because what I want to do is I want to save this to my computer as a file called summary statistics. So here after city, it closes this list of covariate labels. I'm going to add a comma, and then I'm going to type out for output, and I'm going to call this 7.1 summary statistics. Then I'm going to run it. Here is what my summary statistics table looks like. But if I navigate to my working directory, I can open it here, and there it is. I can copy this into Excel, I can copy this into Word, I can make any changes that I want to, and that's something maybe we'll deal with later. We can do the same thing with regression output. So rather than typing all of this in again, I'm going to take a look at what my regression model looked like. And then I'm going to copy my entire piece of code from the descriptive statistics, and I'm going to paste it below. So the first piece in the command is what we're trying to graph. And since I want it to be regression output, it's not my data, it's my model. My title is not going to be summary statistics, it's going to be regression output. And my labels, cost, grad, debt, city, and constant, are going to be the same as these, but my dependent variable is earnings. It's not one of the covariates, so I remove it from my list of covariate labels. And the output, rather than being 7.1 summary statistics, I want it to be 7.1 regression output. Then, boom, desktop, working directory, regression output. There it is. Okay, we will come back in a minute to learn what to do with these things now that we have them. Of course, you can copy and paste them and place them anywhere you want, which is probably a pretty good place to start. Okay, see you soon.